on parch in convenient package sizes. Whatever your needs, trust Chic Leisure Limited for quality products. Chic Leisure Limited, making your life easier.
The power. To shatter the strongest. Conquer the indestructible with Ronex's collection of angle grinders.
At Extra Foods, we care for you. That's why we always have the widest variety, the best prices, spacious aisles of total convenience, plus clean, safe surroundings. Let us care for you. Extra Foods, always extra for less.
Good night, everyone. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025's IBN Breaking Barriers. I am your co-host, Richard Jagger, and with me this evening again is Uncle Nazim. How are you feeling, Uncle Nazim?
Not too bad, considering everything that is taking place in this country. Never a dull moment.
And SOE, democracy on the line, gel blasters beating real guns, real thing.
Real bacchanal. So I don't know where you're going to start tonight.
Where are you going to start tonight?
Yeah.
Well, I see you dressed in salmon. I remember in Panday days, if you shave up here a little bit, it will look like Panday.
No, boy, they will say I'm supporting Pep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So tonight we have the biggest issue that everybody has asked us to treat with. Oh, first, I think we have an ad, guys. The 21st to the 23rd of February is
That's our expo, Ramadan Expo. As heard, about 75 booths already booked. So those who are interested, you can't afford to miss out, so book early, because if you call too late, there might be no space available.
Yeah.
So you can call the studio. You can call 4762. You can call 792-1656, and we can see how we will assist you with the size tents you need.
Excellent.
So let's move full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. We have a packed program, and you still want to leave some room for some callers tonight.
Tonight, I think the viewers should have a big say in what's taking place in the country.
Of course. Now, when we ran the polls to see what we should talk about tonight, top on the line by a mile was this constitutional anomaly that Prime Minister Keith Rowley has placed us in by selecting a Prime Minister in waiting as opposed to electing a Prime Minister in waiting. And what I want to start off this evening with is to clarify some misnomers, some misinformation before we get into the legality or illegality rather. First off is The PNM has never been in this position before. That's something I've seen in the papers, that we've been here before. The PNM and the country, we've never been here before. George Chambers and Manning, that issue, the PNM was in opposition, and we'll comment to that in a minute, the distinction between a party in government and a party in opposition. So we've never been here before. Second misnomer is this is unlike Justin Trudeau's resignation, because Justin Trudeau's resignation was not only as Prime Minister, but also as political leader of the Labour Party. And in their case, they don't have a parliament until March. So they will not have a Prime Minister political leader anomaly that we have. So that's a misnomer. And the third and final distinction is the distinction between an appointment of the leader of the opposition versus the appointment of Prime Minister. And let's get into that from a legal perspective before we get into what has happened in the PNM. You can bring up the first slide, guys. We're going to look at the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for a second. First slide, guys. There we go. Of course, this is the Constitution. This is the version I'm going to use tonight. This is online and available for anybody to take a look at. Let's go to the next slide. The appointment of the Prime Minister comes from Section 76 of the Constitution. You see on the right-hand side there, it says appointment of ministers. Where there is occasion for the appointment of a Prime Minister, the President shall appoint as Prime Minister a member of the House of Representatives who is the leader in that House of the party which commands the support of the majority of members of that House. And what that means is simply the leader in that House means the House of Representatives, means the lower house, the pool of MPs, not senators. It must be in an MP, a member of the lower house, and the leader of that party. Capital L in leader means political leader of that party. That's very important. A political leader of a party can be the Prime Minister. In fact, 76(1)(a) says that is who the President will appoint as Prime Minister. 76(1)(b) goes on to say, where it appears to him being the President, that that party does not have an undisputed leader. Look at that wording very carefully. Undisputed leader, meaning that there is an elected political leader, which they have, where that party does not have an undisputed leader in that house, or that no party commands the support of such a majority, the member of the House of Representatives who, in his judgment, is most likely to command the support of the majority of members of that House and who's willing to accept the office of Prime Minister. You can come back to me for a second. So we only go to 76(b), where there is not a political leader sitting in the lower house. We have a political leader of the PNM sitting in the lower house. So the President has to appoint that person as the Prime Minister. It is not by choice. You see 76(1)(b) there? You see that one gives? You see that has a little line at the bottom that says who is willing to accept and who is willing to accept the office of Prime Minister. You see that? That does not appear for 76(1)(a). So it is not Rowley's choice to accept Prime Minister. It must be the leader who is in the House, meaning the political leader in the House. That's the first point. The second point is, where there is no recognized, let's go back to the wording, where there is no unambiguous, where there appears undisputed is the word, where there is not an undisputed leader in that House. Well, in this case, there is an undisputed leader, because Rowley, if I'm not mistaken, was elected by the PNM to serve as their political leader. So we have a constitutional anomaly here. Agree with me?
Correct.
We have a constitutional anomaly. We have a democratic issue here. Come back to me for a second. The President, therefore, cannot simply take a WhatsApp message, a call, a statement from Rowley and Tobago that this is the anointed. This is Simba. I'm holding him up and I'm putting the thing on his forehead and I anoint him as the Prime Minister. No, that's not how democracy works. That's not how Section 76 of the Constitution works. Let's go to the other section, guys. I think Section 83 we have next, or 80. Either one is fine. Whichever one is next. Is next slide entirely. So we have a constitutional anomaly. There we go. So 80 is, in the exercise of his function under the Constitution or any other law, the President shall act in accordance with the advice of Cabinet. Now I want to go straight to 83A. Can we go to 83A? So just scroll down, I'll tell you when to stop. There we go, 3. Without prejudice to any other case in which the President is authorized or required to act in his discretion, the President shall act in accordance with his own deliberate judgment in the performance of the following functions. A. In the exercise of his power to appoint the Prime Minister conferred on him by 76(1), which we just looked at. 4 doesn't apply here, so we leave that out for now. So, in short, in essence, the President has the discretion to appoint where there is, without prejudice to any other case, where the President authorized or required to act in his discretion. The President shall act in accordance with his own deliberate judgment. So this is what they're going to play on. Come back to me for a second. This is what they intend to play on. They intend to fill out a form, a petition-like fashion, and send it over to the President and say, well, we recognize this person as our Prime Minister. But that defeats 76(1), and 76(1) takes precedent over 83. So let's go to the last one, which is 83(2), or B, I think. Zoom out a little bit, 83(2). There we go. So leader of the opposition. And this is the appointment of the leader of the opposition. There's a distinction between the political leader of the opposition party and the political leader of the ruling party. Let's go to 83(2), please. Yes. The President shall, if the person concerned is willing. You see there we have the language again. If the person is willing. That was not in 76(1). So if the person is willing to be appointed, appoint as leader, capital L again, of the opposition, the member of the House of Representatives who, in his judgment, is best able to command the support of the greatest number of members of the House of Representatives who do not support the government. So come back to me for a second. So this happens where there is a sitting government, there is 21 plus, let's say 22, and there is a minority. And whoever controls the majority of the minority is titled leader of the opposition. The reason that is there is to cater for situations where, let's say, 2 parties go into opposition. One has 5, one has 3. The person with 5 automatically becomes leader of the opposition. And that's how it works. That's how we don't have leader of the backbenchers, for example, you know. So that's the constitutional issues at play here. Now, again, let me recap. Leader of the opposition is appointed differently than the Prime Minister. Prime Minister must be the leader of a party sitting in government and from the pool of MPs, versus the leader of the opposition, who is anybody. The opposition members, for example, sign a petition and say we recognize this person as our majority leader, as our opposition leader. And that has happened in our history in the past. So therein lies the constitutional anomaly issue, the democratic hurdle conundrum that Rowley has thrust upon us. And I, for one, say democracy must prevail. It cannot be that you sit on your iron throne all the way in Tobago and anoint, appoint, and select somebody and thrust that person on us. He's even given a date, a February date, after he comes back from a CARICOM summit. Thrust that person upon us from February all the way until that person deems an election worthy. I think he's spending too much time in those undemocratic states to do such a thing. So that's the constitutional issues I wanted to raise, and then we go over to Uncle Nazim to talk about how are you looking, so Uncle Nazim?
No, I confused right now.
Tell me.
Is it that the for this to, have some legality in it, the Prime Minister should resign his position, and then that within Parliament will have to
prorogue Parliament,
and they will select somebody based on who has the majority there?
So the proper thing, what the Constitution envisions, is a smooth transition of power. It envisions simply a political leader election in the PNM first, before a general election. That means, for example, you can prorogue Parliament now, let's just say now, any date, and call your internal party elections first, and then the date for general.
Right.
Or you can prorogue parliament and announce the date for general, and between now and the date for general, there's an internal election. The issue here is that Rowley has already said he's not doing that.
Right.
Rowley has already said he is going to appoint Stuart Young as Prime Minister. How he will sit in Parliament being political leader and not be Prime Minister is a headache for the President and our democratic luminaries. So that's the first point. That's what he says he's going to do. And then after the general, then there will be a political leader election of the PNM. That's what he says. And I could quote it for you in a second. So I'll hand over the rein. So in my opinion is there must be a political leader election first. There must be a political leader election first. Political leader must be settled. Cannot be appointed, anointed, or anything of the such. And I think it's page 3 of the 7th, of the Express on the 7th. And I'll quote him where he says he's going to. There we go. So we'll get into how Young got appointed in a minute. He says here, this is Tuesday the 7th, January 2025. Rowley sits out vote for PM. Stuart beats Penny 11-9. And we'll get into that division in a second. It quotes, the general election will be called by Young, he said. That's Rowley. He tells us that. He tells us that as he stands in Tobago. While Rowley is retiring as Prime Minister, he remains the PM political leader. And that post expires in 2026. That's the constitutional anomaly. That's the hurdle. That's the democratic issue. He stated that the issue of PNM leadership will be addressed at the PNM convention on September 28, 2025. So he says that we're going to deal with the leadership of the PNM quite in September 2025, but election comes due before that.
Right.
So he says that election will occur, the general election will occur first, and then they will sort out the internal political leader election.
That depends on the incumbent Prime Minister who was selected. He will call it date.
There we go. And look, it says here, he quotes, the Express asked who will lead the PNM into a general, given the party's convention is not until September the 28th, and an election is due before that. Rowley responded, and this is in quotes, Rowley responded, then we go to the election before the convention. It's that simple, end quote. You understand? So that's where the issue arises. He tells us, listen, I'm going to be political leader of the PNM and not be Prime Minister. He's going to violate Section 76(1)(a) of the Constitution. He's going to ask the President to violate a clause of the Constitution. That's the first thing. Second thing he says, I will sit in Parliament as political leader, not be Prime Minister. I've appointed Stuart Young as Prime Minister, and he will call the date when he's ready. If he wins the general, then he goes on to win the internal political leader.
But is it just simple for the Prime Minister to anoint
It cannot be.
Small pin?
It cannot be, and that's an affront to democracy. And let's get into that for a second. Let's look at Stuart Young for a second. I sent the EBC results for his last 2 elections. Can we get those up, please? So Stuart Young has been MP for 2 consecutive elections, 2015 and 2020. And he has, there we go, he is in Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West. There we go, third to the bottom. Third from the bottom. Total voter, total electorate, 25,003. All right? Let's scroll. You can zoom out a little bit. Right, there we go. Now let's just look up, for example, to see Maruga Tableland. 29,000 and change. Maruga Tableland.
Right.
Let's look at Oropuch East, Oropuch West, 28,000 and change, 25,000 and change. You know, those are larger. 28,000 is a much larger number. But we get to that point one of these days. Princestown, 27,000 and change. You know, so there's a much larger constituency, but all right. Let's go to the right. So let's see how many votes Stuart Young got. Stuart Young got 9,475 votes. Less than 10,000. Less than 10,000 people in his constituency voted for him. All the way to the right, please. There we'll see the total voter turnout. Total. Oh, is that cropped out? Scroll all the way to the left. Let's see if, no, don't go back up. Yeah, let's go all the way to the left. All right. The figure there ought to be, or we could simply add it. So out of the 25,000 people in that constituency, 9,475 voted for Young, 385 voted for another candidate, and I think 1,705 voted for the UNC. So that's less than half of the constituency came out to vote, out of 25,000. What's the maths on that?
That could be around between 40 to 45%.
Less than half, yes. When I was checking it earlier, it was less than half. So less than half of an already small constituency in terms of electorate came out to vote. That means less than half was moved to vote for Stuart Young. Yeah. Had the other name in my head there.
Yeah.
And that's the person who's being thrust upon us. 9,400 people voted for the gentleman. That is less votes than a UE election.
Well, but hey, that is how the cards you dealt with. They are no choice. That is the person that was thrust upon them.
Exactly. Now that was 2020 election. Let's go to the other set of results. Less than 2/5. So the maths works out to less than 2/5 of the constituency came out to vote. Less than 2/5 of the constituency came out to vote. And less than 2/5 voted for him, which means 3/5 of a PNM diehard seat.
Yes.
Rejected Stuart Young. 3/5 of a PNM diehard seat rejected the gentleman. All right, and that is where we say we're edging against democracy. All right, where you have 3/5 of a constituency that is generally diehard in one area, one part, in favor of one party. You can say, I'm not voting for that gentleman. And you know what else? Let's go to, so he got 9,000 votes in 2020. Let's go to 2015 election. So these people, you have the results there, guys. That's the last thing I sent you. These people, while you pull it up, these people had the gentleman for an MP for 5 years, 2015 to 2020. They were face to face with him. They had him as an electoral representative, right? They're the best to know him. Because when you see the videos of those hugging Penelope Beckles and so on in the constituency, your constituents are the best people, all right, to know you.
But did he get, well, let's watch the figure. He supposed, seeing that he was a new candidate.
He was a new candidate in 15, yes.
He probably get more than 9.
He probably get more than 9, yeah.
Let's see. Especially if he get more than 9.
Especially if the constituency.
A vibrant person in the constituency.
Yeah, he would be a vibrant person in the constituency. All right. So while they pull that up, I think you wanted to discuss this 11-9.
Yeah, but before that, I think Stuart Young's position will be short-lived because they had to have the convention. One man, one vote.
Well, everybody is calling, well, the democratic thinkers are calling for that. Is it ready? There we go. It's ready. So, Port of Spain, North, St. Anne's, West, number 28 there, Stuart Young, PNM.
Well, you might get 10,000 and something. Well.
10,946. That's 82% of the total voter turnout. UNC got 2,000. UNC was... You got about 2/5 of the vote cast. Of the electorate, sorry. All right. So he got 10,946 votes in 2015. He's a newcomer, as you put it.
Right.
He's a newcomer. He's new on the scene. He's in a safe seat, and he gets, let's say, 11,000 votes. Right. And then he comes now. They have him for 5 years.
And it drops.
9,400. So it drops by how much? What's the maths?
Let's average 2,000.
1,500 to 2,000 people decide, I've had enough of him, I don't want to vote him in. Come back to us. And they are the people who spend time with him. That's the constituency. All right? So, I wanted to make that point and then get straight. And then after the gentleman serves, for whatever time, let's say February, March, April, as Prime Minister, he too goes home with that lovely pension package, 87 and change.
100,000 plus
perks.
And the last thing he said, he's going to play what? When he resigned, You're going to play golf.
You're going to play golf.
I hope the golf course hasn't turned to a pasture.
Yeah. No, but even Stuart Young, if he serves even a day as Prime Minister, substantially as Prime Minister, he too goes home with the 87,000 and
One
change.
day?
Yes, that's the point I'm making. That's it.
So I believe there is a sinister plot in all of this. You know?
And how is that fair to the taxpayer? How could that be fair to the taxpayer who, on one side being cut, walking away, cut jobs, TSCT had an entire let go session, what the WASA was the same thing, they let go how many workers and they hired people as managers.
WASA like they hire in more, 28 different directors,
they call them.
28 directors.
And then you are forced to pay property tax.
I went and paid my property tax. Do talk to her.
And now all of a sudden these guys going home with 87 and change.
So he act for one day, he getting all the
substantially appointed,
right.
Not act.
Right, so appointed, and it is short-lived.
He still goes home with it. That's his pension. That is his pension.
That's criminal act for him.
Well, they spit in your face and tell you no money for you.
No, well, the supporters will love that. They love that.
No money for schools.
What do you mean? The people get their money.
Lunch.
We will get hampers.
Yeah.
We will get hampers. Well, what you yourself for? We will get a red jersey with a 300 inside it, and we happy. That's how the politics is.
So let's go now to who really electing these people, because it's not the people. It's not a proper democratic exercise, right?
So why doesn't what does the president say in all of this?
Well, we're waiting to see. Because she
is the one who has to do the appointment, as the case might be.
Right. So will she just take the WhatsApp from Rowley? Stuart is the man to appoint. Right. Will she do that? Or will she ask for better particulars? Will she ask for a document signed by at least 21 persons recognizing the gentleman as their leader, and then ignore 76 1A? Or will she say will she stand properly as the upholder, as the defender of the Constitution, as the president, and say this is what the law says, this is what 76 says, you are political leader, therefore you are appointed prime minister until there is no recognizable leader, then we go to 76.2. That's what 76.2 says. Where there is no undisputed leader, then we go. So until I see an undisputed leader, I see an elected political leader, so I will appoint that person. Will she say that?
But will there be a crisis?
Well, I'm seeing the rumblings, but I have opted to come here today, and I've opted to explain it in the best way that I can, because I've not seen it. I've not seen it developing the way it should be developing. And I say now that you have seen it, and we open the line for the callers, we can hear from them. Do you think this is a democratic crisis? Do you think you can appoint somebody as prime minister for a couple months, and then that person calls the election? That person has final control over the date and whatever else EBC might want to do. That person has final control over those things. Call the election while holding 9,000 votes for himself.
So suppose the prime minister come out and say, you see this thing, this had too much chaos in it. I will continue in office. Can he do that?
He could do that.
Right, so that's what I mean. Suppose that's the plot.
Yeah, look, they want to show this video. This is the person being selected. Selected, not elected. This is the person being selected. Let's have the video, guys.
How are you doing? You good?
I'll ask you a quick question.
What is the question?
Question
No. How are you doing? You good?
I'll ask you a quick question.
What is the question?
Question
He is cut from the same cloth as Dr. Rowley. Dr. Rowley, in fact, I do like to call him Dr. Rowley. Forget the doctor. Take back that doctor. Rowley, who is a bully, arrogant, disrespectful. And I have been asking the question to Stuart Young, were you a bully at St. Mary's? And I don't know if somebody within the PNM could ask him that question and put it forward. Were you a bully at St. Mary's and did you bully a student? That is a question asked in a long time and nobody want to answer, and we're going to get a next bully.
Long time you're asking.
We going to the dogs, bully. And we have one here, Tank. Tank is a bully.
So the gentleman appointed is Stuart Young. And how is he appointed? He was appointed 11-9. 11-9. So 11 people sat in a room in Tobago and appointed the gentleman as Prime Minister, right? Look at the names here. So he has 11 people supporting him. 11 people, Team Penny, which is of course herself, Foster, Marvin, Gonzalez, Kenneth. Now, there's a name here. Anyway, we get to that. Team Stuart.
But let me ask you this. Team Penny. All those names have already been selected for constituency?
I don't know that, because there's one name there that is not selected.
Right. Now, you see, that is how it get ticklish now. They could be blacklisted when selection process come, because they didn't seeing that Rowley anointed Stuart and they didn't toe the line. When it's selection time and you hear they get blank.
Well, my point is this, right? These are the outgoing MPs. We don't know who is coming back. For example, on the Team Stuart, we have Adrian Leons, and he's not going back.
He get blows because he talked early.
So this is my point. So the vote is 9-11, and one from the 11 is not going to be in Parliament next round.
Right.
So he's not going to be part of the batting lineup, but he have a say in who is our Prime Minister. The next person is Hines. Hines vote for Stuart, but he too. So Penny Gill, if I was you, I query these results, because you only lost by 2 votes, and 2 of the people who vote against you not supposed to be in the parliamentary caucus. So we have 2 people that voted for Team Stuart who are already not going to be part of the next parliamentary life.
As a matter of fact, I think Stephen McClatchy too. I think the library seat.
He formally announced? I know he said he was considering.
No, I think the blankie.
They sent him back, right? Yes, that is what I know too.
He ended up getting it back?
No, they sent him back to open back nomination. That's what they did, yes. They open back nomination, yes. I didn't have him in my mind as somebody who formally declared he's not going back. But I would just strengthen the point. So Penny, just now, I'll come to this point in a second. So I don't know, I feel like you really had a majority. How the outgoing cast, how the outgoing team, how the outgoing cricket squad pick a captain to captain the new cricket squad?
I'm telling you.
All they ever do that before?
We are democratic. We're not like the PNM.
Yeah, whoever hit the most 6 win.
Yeah, who like me, who's the best batsman?
I hear differently.
Select captain.
I hear differently.
No, I was an all-rounder. And don't tell me anything about any all-rounder nowhere. I know you're coming to say something.
So that 11-9 are looking democratic at all, you know. And that is only one. Watch me. If one from the 11 stay home or voted next year, it'll be 10-10 is a draw. Yeah. And 2 of them fellas, you'd say 3, 2 of them fellas who vote in 11, not supposed to be in 11, eh? And the other point I wanted to make before we move on was people had to pull out their name from the hat, eh?
Yes.
Farris had to pull out, Cummings had to pull out to leave it as a 2-man race. So what kind of democracy is that? Something has to be wrong when a gentleman serving in a party has to say, I had to pull out before they bust my throat, you know, boy. Yeah. I had to pull out before they bust my throat. That's wrong. Yeah, and they like to say UNC always have bacchanal about political leader.
That is something I was going to bring up. And there is no everything about UNC.
Yeah.
Now, they in the firing line, they're finding all kind of excuses.
Yeah.
All kind of excuses.
Yeah, you know.
Boy.
They like to say only UNC have bacchanal for leadership. But that's because, sorry to say it this way, but that's because all PNM leaders is dead.
But
it's the first time you have an election for a leader, and all you choose not to have an election, or you choose to have a selection.
Right. The more the merrier. We will see. When the election is constitutionally due in
August.
Good.
Right. So let's go to the other slide you wanted to bring up. So remember earlier when I said who controls the majority? Paré take 5 people
Right.
and he run with it. He have in the backbench. Penny have 9 staying.
Right.
Young have 11 today. The day that election dissolved, he lost 2.
Right.
Right, but he have 11 now. Kamala have 14. So who really have the majority?
Well, boy, the maths not maths.
So, and the Constitution clearly says who has the majority is who should be the governing party. Yeah? So this really tells us that Kamala have 14. You know? Now the Parade Kamala thing is a piece of old talk. Eh? If you really add the 14 and the 5, you still come out on top.
Right.
You still come out on top, right? So and that is the truth. That is the truth. So but even if you tell Parry, all right, take your 5 and go in the back, she still have 14. So who really should be the prime minister of this country?
Boy.
And remember, Kamala was elected as political leader of the UNC.
So Vienna, you big in the dance. You telling me you can
come back to us.
You can call one of these constitutional lawyers and let her give a little input on this.
I big in the dance.
About 300 of them.
I now fly back in the country and they bring my suitcase.
You could call Ramesh. You know what I mean?
We could do that.
You big.
I big. So we have so what we're looking at here, right, is this gentleman. You could zoom in. This person here. You know, after I do this, you see they go. You could zoom in here, right, and this image here.
The one in orange.
Yeah. They're not orange, you know. They're just the.
That the devil himself.
You.
Yeah, boy.
So he
This
appointed.
man he looking like a pirate. He bury chest.
So he appointed. He buried chest. So he appointed this gentleman as our prime minister and tells us take that. Worse yet, he tells the PNM, take that and stay quiet. He tells us the country, take that.
But that is the nature of the beast, you know. That's how he does operate. Whatever he says, you have to do and stay quiet.
Yeah. So the question, you see, the question about democracy is a serious question. So I think we have a slide from News Source. You wanted to comment on that as well.
Well, and that is the...
There's Rhoda Barrett, right?
Either Rhoda Borat.
So information coming into me is that senior members of the government have been tasked with calling MPs to request their signatures on a document. This looks... Well, I don't know. I don't know how authentic this is.
Right.
MPs have not seen the document. It will be brought to them personally for their signatures. Those that have received the call suspect it is an undated letter that will show their signed support on the current national issue of leadership. More on the issue as it unfolds. So, and I think there's another one as well. Let's just get it out of the way. 2 portfolios were offered as inducement to secure votes in the straw poll at the parliamentary retreat. One MP was promised the post of AG, another MP was promised local government. It is disturbing to me that inducements had to be offered to secure allegiance. Again, think about what we mean when we say we are in a democracy. Come back to me. So these are words of political PNM stalwarts.
Yes.
And they are saying, this is strange, this is not how we do things. They are saying that's not a democracy. They're saying, how can you induce people? How can you promise things? How can you sign this petition and give to the president and say, this is the person we recognize? All of those are questions we also raise. So we echo the sentiments of the people. So the issue there, one, is they like to say it have fight in the UNC, but look, they have fight now because of social media. We see in it, there's an avenue. You know, all the silence and infighting that they have is leaking out. So it's not one-sided as they like to pretend.
And it now starts.
Of course it now starts.
It now starts.
And the second point there is that even they are saying it's a democratic conundrum. It's an issue. It's a serious concern that they have. And it's a valid concern. Now, all I am saying, because the first thing they're going to say is, I choke in my mouth and other people's business. I'm not saying how the PNM should run their house at all. I read from the Constitution, not from the Constitution of the PNM. My position is that democracy, the smooth transition of power, must always be clear. In this case, it is not. You cannot have a person holding political leader helmet and somebody sitting in the throne of prime minister, and that being two different people. That cannot happen. All right? Resign from political leader and then take it from there. Yeah, I think we should take a break now, and then when we come back, we'll tackle some other issues, and then shortly after, open the phone lines. How does that sound? Yep.
Good.
So let's take our first break, guys.
The power. To shatter the strongest. Conquer the indestructible with Ronex's collection of angle grinders.
Attention all bakers, doubles vendors, and roti makers. Try our high-quality bromate-free, all-purpose, and whole wheat flour. Low price and conveniently packaged in 2 pounds, 2 kg, 10 kg, and 25 kg bags. For wholesale and retail prices, contact Shiklisho Limited at 665-3336 or 480-8715 or visit us at Warrenville, Canoopia. Shiklisho Limited. Quality you can trust.
Ronex's premium quality.
Mitsu Air Limited, authorized Mitsubishi air conditioning dealer. No need to replace your air conditioning units ever so often. Split units, cassette, ductable, CTVRF systems, and much more. Mitsubishi Electric has long been powering industries and providing solutions for healthy living. Mitsu Air Limited boasts the industry's first 10-year warranty on all parts and labor. Inverter units are also available. Don't hear it, just feel it. Mitsu Air Limited, 246 Eastern Main Road, Barataria. Give us a call at 674-4000 or 675-4000 or email us at mitsu.limited@gmail.com.
Yeah, and welcome back. Let's see the slide with the expo. Yes, Ramadan Flea Market, Baraka Grong Show won us. Firstly, I must thank all the people for supporting our expo. That's the one that went recently ended on the 24th of December. And I want to thank you all for your continued support. We want to like you all to book early, please. As I said before, around 75 booths have already been booked. So if you want to get a chance at this flea market, please call the numbers on your screen. Call the numbers on your screen and book now. Don't miss out on this chance here before Ramadan. Okay, Richard, all to you.
Yeah,
What's
and
next?
before I forget, I know the live is again asking where is Brother Inshan. Well and good and kicking. He went up to Port of Spain this morning to collect his check, long outstanding check from TTPS after court.
Getting pension check.
You know, we won a matter in court this morning, and he went up to collect his check. So he's well, good and kicking, and we should see him back shortly.
That's why when I spoke to him, I say he good enough to come and host the program.
I thought so too. I mean, he said all your boys looking plenty better than me. All your
We might be
handling
better looking than him. You know what I mean? But he have the mouth for it then.
Right. So I think we got a message during the break, and it reminded us of a scenario. The message concerned a scenario where Rafiq Shah, at the time an opposition member under Pandey, went to Ellis Clark as president and say I have these list of names. I am the recognized opposition leader. Name me as opposition leader. And the president at the time said, you may have a list of names, but do you command the majority? He used the word command there because when we look at the Constitution, that's the language being used. That's when we had presidents who understood the Constitution and defended the Constitution. The point he made there was, you may have a list, but I have doubts that you could command the majority of the opposition MPs, and therefore I cannot title you leader of the opposition. We now have a situation where there's possibly, if we were to believe news source, a list going around that should contain 21 names, and that will be presented to the president. Let's say that happens. Is this president going to be strong as Ellis Clark and others? Is this president going to be strong and say, you may have a list there, but there is an undisputed political leader of the ruling party, and I leave that person as prime minister?
Yeah, but you forget, the bully going to call her before.
The WhatsApp message.
And he might abuse her too. And let her know the direction that she had to take, because I put you there.
Well, you know, they had to get security for everybody. Yeah, you had to get security for the president, for all the judges, all the.
But I just feel unsafe. So why I can't have security?
Yeah.
I ain't nobody. You had to be a lawyer, a doctor, a judge, a magistrate, a politician.
Yeah. And then they take away one of the judges' security the other day, Justice C. Prasad, and they take away his security. Yeah. So they're taking away people's security and then telling you, be safe. Chief Justice said, be safe. Don't go anywhere suspicious. Look, watch your back. Yeah, that's all we, boy. That is all we.
But you know, we didn't touch anything on the SOE.
In a minute, I wanted to make sure that's my next crime, and the SOE is my next topic. I want to make sure we finish with small.
You want to take some calls on this before you go on the SOE?
We could do that. We're at 8:45.
And here, quickly, maybe about
3 calls.
A couple calls. Let's hear what
only on this topic. Yeah. And then we'll open the lines at the end to talk general. Right. Okay, no problem. Uncle Nazim has called the shot, and we'll go as directed.
All right, let's see. Let's see who will be the first call. I wonder if Charlie will be the first call.
Let's open the lines. While they do that, I think there was a point you wanted to make on the Rhoda Barrett slide.
No, it's basically what you spoke of. That is basically it. Because she's a PNM blogger.
Right.
So news, anything that is negative on the PNM side, I am really surprised.
Yes. That means she's so moved by it. She's so moved by it.
So we just have to wait and see, as you say, how everything
Right. While we do that, so to not waste the airtime, let me just confirm. Wednesday, 8 January papers, front story is where I got the quote that said, it is understood that Foster Cummings and Faris Arai withdrew from being considered for the position of Prime Minister in this arrangement in order to allow for the one-on-one contest. Remember, before I say something, I have to quote where it comes from. So if I miss it, I have to go back and deal with it. So that's where I got that quote from. So if it is true, and is likely to be because this is Rhea Tate, if it is that these gentlemen had to tell themselves, I don't want to be sidestepped later. And the question is, when Stuart becomes Prime Minister, is anointed Prime Minister, is he going to change over his cabinet? The people that did not vote for him, the 9, are they going to lose all of their cabinet positions? Is he going to bring in new people through the Senate? When he goes to the president to say, I want to remove 5 people and bring in 5.
Let's take this.
How is that going to be democratic? Is the president going to take that seriously? So close to an election? Let's take the first caller. First of 3 callers. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, I want to ask a question. Based on Mr. Yagasa's explanation of the Constitution, which was quite good, is only one course the president can take, which is not to appoint Stuart Young. So my question is this: if she does, what is the recourse that we have us to do? Is there some sort of international body we can go to?
Yeah. So, okay, that's it, caller?
Yes.
So, all right, thank you for that question. So, I think that is where your proposal of having one of these constitutional luminaries advise accordingly. I think that's where that comes in. But the short answer is any claim brought under the Constitution is brought by ordinary summons. And any citizen can bring any claim under the Constitution. So it doesn't have to be an international body. It will be a claim right here in our constitutional courts, and it can be filed by any citizen.
All right, we have another caller. Hello, good evening. Hello?
Yeah, good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
According to what Attorney Richards just read out about the Constitution, it gave me the indication that Dr. Rowley is violating the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, and whether the President will pull him up or what's she going to do about this decision. Because the Constitution says the majority of people, he can call a caucus to appoint a leader. The PNM General Congress is supposed to do that. In Dr. Eric Williams' days, they had 3 deputy leaders. They had the late Kamaluddin, they had the late Errol Mahabe, and George Chambers. How come the PNM at this time doesn't have a deputy political leader who could take over from the Prime Minister? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. It seems the point has been made clear. Yes, and that's exactly the issue. So I think he made the announcement on January 3rd. I think January 3rd, January 2nd. And it's only been a couple of days. And I've heard the issue developing. I've seen certain people raising issues. But I thought I would use my time tonight to explain it in that particular way. So I'm glad it has struck where it needs to strike.
Hello, good evening. Hello?
Hello, you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Yes.
You hear me?
Yes, caller, go ahead. Hello?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, sorry. So I have a possible thing here that I want to bring up, right? And the thing I want to bring up is the election or appointment of Zamiman as the next Prime Minister of this country emerges a constitutional crisis. He is not an MP, nor is he the duly elected political leader of the PNM. This in turn sparks the opposition and other social activists to take the matter to the court. The debacle is then tied up in legal brambles and the case drags on. While this court matter moves at its normal snail pace, Zamiman remains the incumbent peer and the PNM remains in power as a direct affront to the Constitution. The state of emergency is still in effect and freedom of movement is suspended. But this will go on.
I think freedom of movement not suspended.
It is curtailed. It's curtailed. It's not suspended. No. Thank you, caller. I think you said Stuart is not an MP. He is. He's a sitting MP.
Hello. We're going.
All right. We have one caller on the line. He is an MP. I understand the point he's making regarding everything else. Let's take the last caller, since the caller is on the line. I know we said 3 only, and then callers will hold until the end of the show as our usual time. Last caller, hi. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Good night.
Good night.
Walaikum
salam.
I am calling from San Fernando. I would like to say that the president cannot be sued. The last attorney that attempted to sue the president, she was debarred for life. And this young lady who was debarred for life has no hands. So I guess you can guess who is the attorney. Have a good night.
No,
Is the lawyer the girl who...
She's not debarred. She's not debarred at all. If the only attorney I know without hands is young Vera Bajan, a resident of Felicity Shogunas, and a brilliant young lady who has gone through a lot in her life and studied law in Barbados and is now the adjuster, is the title, of the Equal Opportunities Commission. And she is a qualified attorney and her name shows up on the roll of registries. So good. So you wanted to open the lines, take callers on this, right. And now let's go over to the crime situation on the state of emergency. So, how are you liking it? I now reach back in the country. I leave earlier for 2 weeks, and I find out all you have a state of emergency. I was sunbathing, and I got pick on my phone, emergency, and I looked to my right and looked to my left and say, apparently there's an emergency. They have a state of emergency, but the crab legs coming just now.
But with big gondis?
Big gondis, yeah.
Right.
Sweet sea crab.
No, somebody, that the SOE was on Monday, right? Was announced on Monday. That is the...
I have the date. Yes, it was announced the day before, yes.
But would you believe somebody told me Sunday night around 8, 9 o'clock that we're going to have a state of emergency?
That person know the lotto numbers too.
And do you know the bandits probably got wind of that too?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they started to move the hall and hide it.
Right. There was, I understand what you're saying, there was a period in which the concept of the SOE was out on social media. We had no regulations, we had no formal announcement from the Prime Minister or the President. What we had was the usual frequent flyer was out of the country as per usual, and there was an announcement by paper, a proclamation by paper without the stamp, and that was causing some confusion. And then an announcement on social media that there was going to be the acting Prime Minister, the selected, the appointed, the anointed, the Holy Grail, Terrowley apparently, and Heinz had the press conference where they formally announced.
Well, I think he was in Tobago. He was at a party, if I wasn't...
Right.
And he had his glass full of whatsoever.
Energizing drinks.
Yes. And he called Small Pin.
Right.
I said, Small Pin, let me take a drink just now. You go announce the SOE. I ain't had time to come in Trinidad and talk to nobody.
Yeah.
You fix up. I think that's how it went down.
Right. Because you're right. Because I remember when it was happening, I was telling myself, but the length of time it takes for these officers to organize all the criminal elements, all the gangs, they hide all their weapons, they hide all their cash, everything. So I understand.
They give them a heads up. They get them a heads up.
Yes.
Fellas, all you organize a suit.
And then it took so long to come out with official regulations that the TTPS was so hands tied behind their backs, you know?
If they really wanted this SOE to be effective, we know the crime hotspots.
Right.
Everybody knows it.
Right.
All they had to do is get the people in place, all the exits, cordon off all the exits, and call your SOE.
You looking to take Heinz's job from him? You looking to be Minister of National Security? And with that kind of logical solution you have there. That's why you have no place in the PNM. You think too logically and properly and democratically.
If I had a place in the PNM, my father would have woke up from his grave right now.
So the issue on, and this is I don't think we need to go into the legality of it. I think that's been discussed enough. The issue of an SOE being the solution for crime is obvious nonsense. You cannot solve crime with an SOE, especially an SOE with this limited regulations and this foolish behavior that the TTPS has, you know. And I want to be fair in this particular instance, because what we're seeing in the papers is a flurry of press releases from the TTPS saying, I have arrested 140 persons, 39 gang members as of today, alleged gang members.
6 guns.
Right, 6 guns in a raid, and all of that.
300 came in last night, but we get 6.
We get to that in a second. The point I wish to make is simply this. All of those things could be done without an SOE. The search and seizure of illegal weapons could be done without an SOE. Raiding a known gang leader's house could be done without an SOE. The invasion or the encroachment on someone's property where there is a reasonable commission of a crime or a suspicion, reasonable or otherwise, reasonable suspicion of a crime being committed or having recently been committed, is also lawful without an SOE. So roadblocks as well, as all the issues I have with that and the logistics behind it, that being aside for now, those things could happen without an SOE. So the state of emergency is not required for this kind of crime fighting that we're seeing. And that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is the SOE was allegedly called, according to Stuart Young, because of intelligence, police intelligence, whatever that may be. I have never seen police intelligence. Because of police intelligence that there was going to be an upsurge of gang violence.
Reprisal killing.
So there was sufficient intelligence that there was going to be reprisal killings, as you call it, and therefore there was an SOE. No arrest, no prosecution has been made relative to under the anti-gang legislation. None.
But remember, let's say the anti-gang legislation is hampering from doing her work.
It's hampering her from because of all of the legalities. Right. Yes. I don't know. I don't know anything that she has to say is ever meaningful. But and one of these days, actually not one of these days, on the next show, for example, we can probably go through the same exercise with the anti-gang legislation on the screen and the bail amendments and all of that and show you the powers of the TTPS. But in short, the first point is what is happening, the crime fighting that is happening, is not required to be done under an SOE. And secondly, you have to be fair to the officers as well, because now you have all of these people coming back out from vacation or whatever the case is. And one, I read an article recently that, well, as you know, the bulletproof vest has a life.
Yeah, expiry date.
I think it's 8 to 10 years depending on use, right? Do you know now, according to the article, I believe the prison service chairman, union president wrote it, apparently they have to keep it for 15 years. So it has an expiry date of 8 to 10, have a lifespan of 8 to 10 years, but then they're keeping it after. And you're expecting that person to go out in the line of fire with against criminals with high power rifles shooting at them. That's one. And two, without any proper resources. If you pass by Vimcot, you see vehicles parked up on the road. It's a garage now. It's not being used properly. Vimcot was supposed to maintain vehicles. I think it's vehicle maintenance of Trinidad and Tobago, company of Trinidad and Tobago, yeah, LFWC. The maintenance part has gone out the window, yeah. So the bottom line is, the TTP is already hampered in their lack of resources and also hampered in their ability to properly serve. So now you have all of these arrests, and the question really is, well, how much of it is going to resolve in prosecutions and convictions? And the answer is always very limited, very, very, very limited. So how are you really going to clean up the streets during an SOE? And the third point I wanted to make is, even with an SOE, we were unable to save the life of or prevent the death of Attorney at Law Randall Hector.
Old days night, I think.
Coming from church in Port of Spain, a stone throw away from the police station. So even in extreme circumstances where we are giving the TTPS a state of emergency, giving the Commissioner of Police a state of emergency, calling out all of the officers, we didn't have the ability to protect him. And you really have to ask yourself, well, then what's the use of the SOE? It didn't help him. It didn't help his family. And Randall Hector was a relatively high-ranking, intelligent gentleman in the DPP's office. So he's a gentleman I've seen. So forgive me. You know, when I got the news, I was out of the country, and it did something. Because that's the second state prosecutor that has been assassinated. Because that was an assassination, of course. First being Dana Sitahal,
right,
and now him. And it seems as though the state is unable to protect state prosecutors.
But what type of intelligence the police actually get? I mean, look at the scenario at the Besson Street police station.
So you have the SOE being called, allegedly, because there was intelligence of reprisal gang killing. So there's somebody feeding you information relative to gang-related activity. You've not questioned that person on identities of anybody, because if you had, then you have a duty to arrest them under the anti-gang legislation. So I assume you've not questioned the person, Because if you do have names, those persons should be arrested under the anti-gang bill. And so that's the first point. The second point is as you correctly raised, well, first I should make this point that it was confirmed, can't remember by who, it was the Commissioner of Police or Rowley himself, but there was no intelligence contending the assassination attempt on Mr. Hector. I think that was Rowley said that, right? And I remember reading it. And my question is how could you have a society where you allegedly have an SOE based on intelligence, but then nothing on the assassination on a high-ranking DPP prosecutor? In what world does that make sense? That can't happen. Now, that's absolute madness. How can you know about the gangs, the intention for reprisal killings, but not know about this attempt and successful attempt on the gentleman's life? Now, lawyers receive threats every day, especially DPP lawyers. They are the ones charged with putting criminals behind bars. But lawyers of all walks of life, in all fields, receive threats. There was a voice note circulating a couple of months ago about a woman who received a call from someone attempting to extort her. Lawyers receive threats to life and extortion calls all the time. I myself have been the victim of certain threats over the years, sufficient enough to make police reports and to lodge complaints elsewhere and have warnings posted in the requisite places. And therein lies the issue of the lack of ability of the state to protect others and why there is a national call for FULs to be taken seriously and granted appropriately and for stand your ground legislation to be put in place. That is why there is a serious call for those things. It is not because people want to carry around this burden on their hips. It's not because people want to spend exorbitant sums of money on annual training in the field, in the range, and spend money on guns and so on. It's because people have to. The business community, they know it all too well. Lawyers, doctors, family men know it all too well. You have to have some means of protecting yourself. There are incidents that could have elevated to murder and kidnapping, but for the use of a FUL. You know, I think there was a video we had shown once where the person tried to rob a mini mart, a grocery, and because the owner had a firearm and he shot from outside, it wasn't taken, the criminal left. And that was one of the examples, one that I can think off the top of my head. But imagine if Randall Hector had a firearm on him. Imagine, because he was walking to his car with his family. He was walking his car with his wife and 2 children from church. So there is a serious call, and all the Commissioner of Police has to do is take the FUL application seriously. Because you have the legislation to pull one back if it is misuse or there is suspicion of misuse, as the case may be. So if, let's say, for example, you grant one, and you have intelligence that the person you've granted it to is associated with a gang, nothing stops you from seizing it. You grant one, and every year they have to report with their psych evaluations, their eye tests, and their results from the range, the bullet range, and so on. And if they miss it, you can cancel the license. So these are all mechanisms in place that the Commissioner of Police has within her ambit, her parameters, her powers, that she can use at her disposal now with the existing legislation to grant and monitor FULs. And that will help us curb crime. That's a serious issue in our country, the refusal of the Commissioner of Police to grant reasonable FULs. I'm not saying grant all. I think you have 8,000 applications. I'm not saying grant all, but there are some serious ones. There are some substantial ones. There are ones where gentlemen have been robbed consecutively. Every 6 months their family gets robbed. You know, there are some where children are kidnapped in the past and so on. There are some where people are followed home. Those should be taken seriously. And if the person meets the requirement, the psych evaluation, the eye test, and all of those things, then grant it. Or grant it conditionally. Grant it for 6 or 9 months if you so care about the safety of others. And of course, the stand your ground legislation, which I've spoken at length in the past. What's your thoughts on these things?
Well, they ain't getting FUL from ULA, so they're buying gel blasters.
So we have allegedly gel blasters in the hands of youths, of children. And that somehow results in this big scare in the Commissioner of Police and warns others. Now, the legislation, of course, there's a flurry of legislation for weapons and things appearing to be looking like weapons. For example, you can't take a walking stick and sharpen one edge, legislation against that. Things looking like firearms, Firearm Act speaks to that. So the gel blasters look like
right, but
guns.
Here it is. If it looked like a real gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who bringing it in?
That's a very good question. Who brought it into the country? Somebody brought in containers of these gel blasters.
But they probably brought in not only gel blasters.
Real guns too.
You saying it, not me.
So the real gun and the gel blasters.
Because when they probably raise the first crate.
Right.
They say, boy, children toys, or you bring here, boy, I could take one of that for my son, right?
Yeah.
They check the rest.
Right. So now we have the Commissioner of Police telling families, don't let your children play with these toys. Because the officers are incapable of separating the toy from the real thing. And telling you that now, after you probably purchased the toy for Christmas.
And I think it's about $1,000 for one.
Oh, God. Really?
When I was surprised when someone said that is about $1,000.
And the person who brought it in the country, he gets to bring it in normal, smooth sailing, no customs officer, hold it. The person who sell it on Charlotte Street, on San Fernando, Shogunas Main Road, as the case may be, the person who sell it, that businessman gets to make money.
Yes.
Now the trouble come when you and your child trying to play in the yard. You know, well, I see they call it war games. I mean about that, but trying to play in the yard. Now the police can't tell apart. In fact, I think there was a shooting.
Yeah, in Kunumpia.
Yes.
The Enterprise of
and the
Kunumpia.
boy's head was grazed.
Yes, but the boy wasn't in the vicinity of the incident.
Correct.
He got shot, I think, inside a house.
Yes, correct.
So these police, like the cookie eye.
Yeah.
I ain't say to kill the person with the gel blaster.
Right.
But you could be aiming at somebody and so. Yeah. But I didn't know the direction of the house in the first place. So you inside your house, the safety of your house.
Oh, you have it there, man.
And you get in bullet. I think he got grazed on his head.
Right. I want to get it exactly. You know, I like to quote. I don't know if it's a lawyer thing or what. Oh God. But yes, that is the summary of the incident. There were two boys or two youths were in an alley or something, and the police shot at them and somehow missed them entirely and shot in a totally different direction and grazed the boy's head. And there was a picture of the boy's head I wanted to show you. And grazed the boy's head, and they said it's not life-threatening. He came out from the hospital, I believe it was this morning or yesterday. He came out from the hospital, and the gun amnesty, I wanted to address that as well. And he's not in any life-threatening status. But my question was them police shooting like, lol. Here it is. According to police reports, at about 12:20 a.m. on Sunday, a team of officers from the Central Division received a report that 6 masked men had been seen walking along Bryan Avenue in Kunupe, brandishing what appears to be firearms. The men were observed entering a 2-story concrete house along the roadway. Neither the two men were hit. However, the 17-year-old boy, that's what I was trying to remember, he was just a 17-year-old boy, who was at a house party at a nearby residence, was struck to the face. The police were made aware that the teenager had been shot. Two suspects now, all the time it was 5. Yeah. 2 suspects. The 2 suspects were detained, and it was then discovered that they were in the possession of gel blasters and guns. So I don't know about the 5 and the mask. I don't know about that. I don't know the truth and the veracity of that. The injured teenager was taken for medical treatment. And then it goes on to speak about a girl who was at the party, and she says she claimed that the teenager does not own a gel blaster. She quotes, "I was there. They didn't even know they shot the boy. It was only after, they being the police, they realized the boy was injured because he was inside at the time." That's your point. He was inside the house. I don't know how they shoot and the bullet went inside the house. I have a video of everything else. We had a house party, and yes, there were gel blasters there at the time. But after that, everyone put down the gel blasters, and everyone was drinking, eating, and playing cards. We were liming, having a party. And then I was in the kitchen area, and I heard packs, packs, packs. The victim boy, he was walking to the bathroom, and I see him holding his head like this, and she cups her head. The blood started rushing down. That boy could have died.
Of course. Who would have been responsible for that now?
You know? And meanwhile, the police didn't even know they're shooting the direction of the party. The boy got hit, but it was a whole house party. So who knows what could have happened there?
Of course.
And that's the ridiculousness. That's the ridiculousness. So the gel blasters is such a serious concern for them. And they're shooting up house parties with this concern. I wanted to raise the other issue.
Let's have one other issue. I don't know if you want to just touch on it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
The fire in Arima.
Go ahead, yes.
They're supposed to have an inquiry. And they say they will make it public.
Mm-hmm.
But they look like they're sanitizing it before they make it public. Look how long that inquiry taking. If you know more inquiry, they say they hire people to do this inquiry. They say they will make it public. And we don't get nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't understand in the first place what is the purpose of the inquiry. I really don't understand it. They're just giving out money because they're paying people to do something, and the public no more wiser after the completion.
As you say that, a very serious investigation has to be done by the Auditor General on the amount of monies spent or approved by the Ministry of Finance for nonsense litigation matters. How many small, minor FOI requests have received the attention of high-ranking silk holders, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for mere opinions and no court appearances? How many hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent out of the taxpaying purse for nonsense cases with no hope of success and no reasonable prospect of success at all? How many cases, and I always, it's absolutely ridiculous. You have simple matters going to court, and the state hires these attorneys with exorbitant fees. Top-notch attorneys. They rightfully have high fees because they're experts in that area, but an expert in the area is not required for the case at bar. That's the point. You have state attorneys being paid out of the public purse naturally in each ministry, naturally in the AG's office, who can properly and sufficiently handle the case. But you are hiring SC and high-ranking, the highest-ranking SC in the country, to go after these small, minor matters, these small judicial review matters, and spending upwards of $187,000 per opinion, per 3-page opinion, which says what? Grandy documents under the Freedom of Information Act. I could tell you that for $2.
You're going real cheap.
A serious investigation has to be done with that. There must be protocols, mechanisms, characteristics in place for determination of the state of when to hire external counsel and external counsel of a particular rank. There needs to be sufficient legislation and internal working mechanisms to do that. It cannot simply be, because a judicial review matter is filed, I'm going to hire this very, very expensive attorney, just because it's the public purse paying the bill. Because if it was you paying the bill out of your pocket, you would not do that. That fee would be out of your range. So that's a serious issue I have. All right?
So what about the retreat they had in Tobago?
Well, they say, and I think it was yesterday's papers, officially, that they all paid their own way. They all stayed in a hotel room, respectively, I think $147 US per night. The highest one was $500 something US per night. And then they rented the conference hall. They had the retreat for $2,000 and change per day. That's what they said. I'm not sure what the Ministry of Finance records will say.
But you believe that?
I am not sure what the Ministry of Finance records will say. You know, there was a party. The Ministry of Finance held a party the other day, just before Christmas, called it a Christmas party. Mm-hmm. And the funds used for that party has to be investigated. Did the funds for that party come from a unit trust account. Did the funds for that party, were they approved to be used ex post facto, after the fact? After they hire the caterer, the DJ, pay for everything, pay for the hall, everything, then all they realize, all they don't have enough money, and all they went and dip in somewhere, all they shouldn't have dip in. Serious questions.
Short man again?
It's a whole different session. You had a whole I wonder if he going back, boy.
Boy, but he said he was going, since when he was 60. He said he was going to resign when he was 60.
I hear he throw his hat in the ring too, but he's so short when he throw it fall by foot.
Are you surprised it fall behind him?
Nah, boy, that man on Forex is something else.
All right,
so we have 10 minutes.
Going real quick. So I don't know if you want to
we could open the lines.
Open the lines to discuss any issues.
So you want the FOIA for the results of the Arima fire?
Well, they had an inquiry.
You want the results?
Yeah, they said they were going to make it public.
Mm-hmm.
In a week.
Yeah. When I drop the FOIA, I hope you sign it, eh?
Moody will sign it. Moody?
No problem.
All right.
Moody, send me ID card.
Moody will sign it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll open the phone lines, guys. 663-8373 and 645-4426. Remember, when you call, turn off or mute your television and talk to us through the telephone. And let's hear what you have to say on these pressing national issues.
And next pressing issue we had to find out since these 9 years past here.
Mm-hmm.
We want to find out everybody, not only PNM people, everybody who changed vehicles.
Right.
In that 9 years. And I think we had to go so far to find out how much they sell it for in license office.
Mm-hmm.
Because they doing a trade by that at the taxpayer's expense.
Right. Yeah.
I think that is something, and you remember Rowley said he was going to see about it. He was going to put a cap.
Right. No, he put on a cap when he went to play golf.
All right, we have a caller in the line. Hello, good night. Hello, caller, good night.
Yeah, hello, good night.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Charlie, good day, boy. Nizam and Richard.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on?
New Year, boy.
Same to you, man. Same to you and the family.
We start off real sweet this year.
What's your mother told today?
I don't know now, right? Hey, let me tell you something, right? First of all, just 3 things I want to touch on real quick, right? First of all, this appointment where the Prime Minister are trying to do here, right? You know what this whole thing reminded me of? This reminded me of the meritless for the Commissioner of Police Party. That's the same thing, just replaying again here. He's trying to use the loophole to get you in now. But anyhow, I cannot go at the point Stewart there now because I would just give the opposition the better chance of taking my government this year. So let me see how that goes now. But anyhow, the next thing I want to touch on is this whole SOE they're talking about, right? Let me tell you something. The Prime Minister come on a press conference. I don't know if they take notice of it. He was saying that they have 8,000 police officers and 1.4 million people. And the police are not magicians to be each here, there, and everywhere to save everybody when a crime happening, right? Okay, we understand that. That is the reason why people apply for FUL. To protect themselves, to protect their family, to protect their business, to protect everything they could on their own. Because the police cannot be here, there, and everywhere. But yet the commissioner, he handpicked, don't want to approve people FUL. So what people are to rely on? Buying illegal guns or waiting on the police? And then he come and tell we know that the police can't be here, there, and everywhere. That is your fault, partner. People going through the system. People are the whole attorneys now, they carry the commissioner to court until she denying people. So what are you trying to say then? We are no hope here then.
Boy,
I don't know, you know. I just tell you, that's from my standpoint here, you know, because it's not making sense. Every time he come on our platform, he talking about rubbish of people, right? And it's not making sense.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. But then, don't let me take up too much of
boy,
time.
the man, up to now, that man don't answer a question directly when the reporter asks him. He never answer a question directly.
Yeah, but let me tell you something too, Nizam, before I go, right? This man he handpicked here was under his wing for almost 6-7 years now. He under that man's shoulder. So do expect nothing different.
Correct.
If this man become the Prime Minister, same governance are going on here with the same bunch of idiots running the same ministries. They could just have fighting and rambling inside. and they're going to talk about the UNC like what they say. Bacchanal inside there, well, the PNM have it 2 and 3 times worse now. But Nizam, before I go, I want to ask you a question. You say you pay property tax?
Yeah, boy, I went and paid, boy, but I didn't pay the amount.
Yeah, but what I want to find out, right? It's going into 3 months now that the first deadline was there, not so?
Right.
Did anybody come out and say they want a road paved, they getting good drain, they getting a rubbish pickup? I have rubbish out there me since Monday or last Friday or something, you know. Because I ain't see nothing happening. They didn't say nothing. All the time they come in with this dream that you will get water 24/7, you'll get your drain clean, you'll get a road paved, you'll get a rubbish pickup. It's going in 3 months now, you know. And nobody ain't saying nothing about this property tax paying it and getting any service, you know. Or let's take a note of that. Anyway, fellas, I'll enjoy every night.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah. You see that point about FULs? It's a serious point, you know.
Very, very serious.
You need to grant some FULs. And if you have any suspicion that it's going to be used for any other means, seize it. It's very simple. It's very easy. Oh, gosh, man.
We have a next caller. Hello. Good night, caller. Hello? Hello?
Yes, good night.
Good night, sir.
Back again, concerning I had called earlier about the scenario with the court matter, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm asking Mr. Jagger, is that possible? If it is that they dragged a constitutional crisis to the courts, and Stuart Young remains as the incumbent PM, then they could technically postpone elections. I'm asking. Is that something that could happen?
Well, it is possible, but there are a lot of scenarios that have to unfold before we get to that stage. Of course, I think paramount in dealing with anything of that nature needs to be a claim with a certificate of urgency. That means it's heard by the emergency judge on call. You know, if things happen and unfold, they unfold within a matter of hours, if not days, and it's resolved very quickly. For example, you may recall recently when the pilots went on strike. That was resolved in a matter of, I think, 2 days, 3 days. So something similar can happen. And it all depends on the scenario that is built, namely who files the case, what points they bring about, who the judge is, how the attorneys argue the issues. But to get to the point where the election is postponed is far, far, far down the line. And I mean, everybody will do their best to make sure that does not happen. All of the players on either side, the judge included.
I would disagree, because if it is that the PNM knows that they are not in the public favor, then they will be coming up with all sorts of reasons or ways to succumb the elections, you know. Because Maduro did the same thing. I remember rolling and taking a page out of his book.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's going to happen, you know. I'm just saying that it's a scenario that is possible.
You have to look out for anything.
Correct. Because I just call it as I see it, right? You see, you need to understand the steps. People are not seeing what it is really going on. This SOE, you know, you had said that, made a statement about freedom of movement. That didn't happen yet. But let's just say that there's an issue with the constitutional crisis, as we are saying here now. They could tweak the SOE to inhibit our freedom of movement, so that we cannot protest.
Right.
So you see, all of these things, the things that could be, we need to see things from now on. You have to understand what I see in a pattern, right? I don't want to say what is the pattern I'm seeing, but I'm seeing a pattern where they are trying to go against the rule of law by staying in the rule of law. If you understand what I say.
All right, caller.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. For democracy's sake, I hope the caller is wrong. But if he's right, I am prepared.
You have a gel blaster?
No, I used to run track so I could stand up long in the sun and protest.
You used to run track, you say?
Yeah.
Not run on the track?
No, it's a run track.
Boy, is a DJ?
I ain't inside laughing from inside. Hey, to the next call.
Yes, caller. Good evening.
Yes, gentlemen. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
The shooting of the state prosecutor, sir. The person who shot him would have been a very good shootman, because he shot between the children and the wife.
Right.
And shot the officer. I am asking whether the state prosecutor, the DPP, have the authority to request the bullet that killed this state prosecutor, calling the FBI or Scotland Yard to determine what type of gun was used, whether it was a state security gun or whether it was an outside gun, so we will know who really killed this man. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, that because he had to be a real sniper to shoot the man. And
while he was driving?
No, he was walking to his car.
Oh, he didn't start the car yet?
No, he was walking to his car. So the sniper or the person behind that firearm have to be real good.
Now, to answer the caller's concern, I did read an article where the Prime Minister said they are releasing or assigning more resources to this particular homicide than any other, but 0 multiplied by any number is still 0. Eh?
Yeah, but the country don't have money.
So
how much years this man saying the country don't have money?
Yeah, and we don't have the proper ballistic examination unit. Yeah, the Forensic Sciences Center and all of that. So, I mean, I'm not even going to get into the lack of resources that we have when it comes to forensic.
But did they ever say that they found any spent shells?
Did they? I was
because
out of the jurisdiction.
I think they're gonna shoot. I think they're
reading.
gonna shoot and look for the shell while police might be coming.
Yeah. So, guys, our phone lines. Oh, I think we locked all the phone lines because we're so close to 9:30.
All right. Oh,
so,
yes. Justin, not easy, boy.
No
Justin, no
laughing in the back there.
Boy, Justin.
So,
all right.
It looked like we had to do this show more than once per week. Yeah, more thing we had to talk about.
One of the things too, we have to probably see if we do is coalition politics.
Right.
That is very vital at this time. So, which you could call Michaela.
Why are you saying I had a call she? You can call she?
Yeah, but and she's a lawyer. You're a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Lawyer to lawyer.
I understand what you mean.
And we will see if we get some other people.
All right. No problem.
I ready to drill anybody in coalition politics. You know?
All right. If you say so.
So
sounds good to me.
So let me link up somebody. We will ask Sam.
You want to have a political session?
We will ask the CEO of IBN.
Right.
To make the relevant calls and see if we could have.
Careful, you get unelected people pretending to be political leader and thing and coming in there.
Don't worry, when they come here, we know how to handle them.
People who know, I hear a man went and talk on behalf of a party the other day, and then the next day he say he was never leader of a party and thing.
All kind of drama. Well, folks, it has been nice being with you all on the first program for this year, the new year. We're looking forward to your continued support. Next week, we will try to see what we could have anybody interview as such. Feel free to WhatsApp any topic you might want to discuss, and we will see if we can facilitate you. So, Richard, the ball is yours.
I hope that we successfully live to see another week, and I'm here again. You know, it's very dangerous out there. More importantly, I do hope we get that political segment that you're talking about, the year being what it is, and I hope we have an enjoyable week and we see you all again next week Wednesday on Breaking Barriers.